cops, all right? Come here.
Please call the cops.
Protests continue on Burnaby Mountain, some of them from our own Ada Slavinsky, as you can see. She's been covering the story as protesters have attempted to stop Kinder Morgan from going forward with research in order to apply to put in a pipeline. The protesters are acting as though, and probably convincing some people, that Kinder Morgan's trying to actually put in the pipeline. But joining us now from the mountain, Ada, are you all right?
I'm okay. I was a little bit shaken after that, but I am okay now. Thankfully, I have a wonderful, big, strong cameraman here, so he's been protecting me. That makes it a little bit easier. But the footage you just saw was from when I wandered up past this injunction zone that you see behind me here. So this is the injunction zone that police have blocked off. And on the other side of this, there are some tents where protesters have been sleeping overnight. And if you actually go around through the woods, you can actually get to that site. So I came down here this morning to report on the story and went up to talk to them. I wanted to ask them some questions about what we're hearing from Trans Mountain is that they're applying to have their injunction extended up to December 2nd. So I wanted to ask about that, and I wanted to ask about their recent findings that this is not an earthquake zone as was originally thought. But as you can see, what happened when I went up there is that 3 grown men pushed me and assaulted me and didn't want to answer my questions and tried to there's a sign that someone's holding now trying to block our shot here. We're not very well liked here, I'm sure you can see that, but that's what happened this morning. And what this group is a group of violent protesters who are really here to cause trouble. And I can say that because I've seen them at other demonstrations that have nothing to do with oil or pipelines. And I do want to stress that's not everybody. You've been seeing arrests of elderly people coming up, crossing this line, protesters who have been involved in other causes but really just want to be peaceful. And so that's what we're seeing. And a few minutes ago, can you please not do that?
An 87-year-old lady got arrested.
We saw women cross this line, older women and men cross this line. They would actually lay down as soon as they crossed it and have police officers carry them away. So those people are being quite peaceful and quite within their right to come up to this line and have their voice heard. But like I said at the beginning, there is this group camping up there on the other side of this zone that I did have some questions about.
Do you know whether or not if someone just comes out onto a mountain, onto public property and puts in a tent, that they have any claim to privacy and private property such that they would treat you the way they did?
I think people always have somewhat of a claim to privacy. If they're, if someone's, say, peeing in the woods, you can't go up and film them. So there is some expectation of privacy within private property like vehicles. But when this is part of a protest, this is not just people on public land trying to keep to themselves. This is an active demonstration and a story where I'm concerned about what's going on here. I don't know if a right to privacy gives people the right to assault other people trying to do their job.
Well, it's interesting to hear you say that you recognize some of these people, and as I understand it from you, we have a mix of people who are concerned about the specific issue of, is there an arrest going on as we're talking here?
That man. He was going like this.
Sorry, I can't hear you through the yelling here.
You elbowed him in his face. I was a witness.
Yeah,
you almost dropped your camera.
Me.
You almost dropped this precious, realistic camera.
Really?
You assaulted him.
What we've been getting here, and I just want to, Jerry, I want to explain to you the situation that's going on, because obviously you're seeing people step in here and try to get into the camera.
I'm not trying to.
Sun News is not well liked, and we've received many threats against our camera. People saying, "Watch out for your camera." We would hate to see something to happen to it. Earlier today, we had our cameraman, had a man spit on his hand and rub the spit into the camera. This is the kind of treatment that we're getting. And what you saw in the video that we just showed you was 3 grown men pushing me away from their tent. And what I was trying to do is get an answer on some very relevant questions that have been a part of this discussion.
Ada, can you get your cameraman to please show us some of these people?
To my truth, so I can get out of here.
And can you turn around and show, they just want to see some of the people gathered here.
We love you. Very peaceful. Hi, we love you.
That would be, yeah. Okay, thank you.
We love the CBC, we love CTV. Propaganda.
So, Jerry, the police have just offered that I'm actually able to step into this injunction zone just because of some of what's going on. I can't really do my job here. So now I should be able to hear you a little bit better, and hopefully you'll be able to see me. So I can, tell you a bit more about what happened today, and some of these protests have been escalating as we see more people. Monday was the only day that we saw kind of small numbers, but today definitely over 100 people came up and marched up to this line, singing, holding candles, really trying to have their voice heard. But as what you're seeing, there are very disruptive groups who are really trying to cause trouble here.
Good work on your part there, Ada. Just as we leave, could we just have the camera show us again the childish antics of people who think they should be taken seriously?
Sure, Ed, let's get a shot of what's going on here.
New profitable business for Kinder Morgan.
Thank you for not elbowing me.
Thank you very much, Ada. We really appreciate it. We're going to give you some more on this story, including a part.
Can I just add one more? Oh.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say, so what's planned for the weekend is more of these demonstrations. On Saturday, we're hearing that women and children are going to hold hands around the line and cross the line together. So that's what we're hearing is planned. So no sign of this slowing down anytime soon, that's for sure.
All right, thank you, Ada. Good work. As you can see, in some cases, the childish antics, as I said, we'll hold our clever little sign, Stop Harper, in front of the camera. Did that woman actually say to our cameraman, "You're afraid to drop your precious imperialistic camera"? This is the kind of undereducated or overeducated juvenilism that we're seeing. And why should we have the progress of this nation halted or slowed down because of a few such malcontents? In fact, now Kinder Morgan is applying for an extension on their deadline, which was December 1st, in order to do the testing work that they're doing. We'll train our imperialistic camera on Paige McPherson in Vancouver and give you more on that in a moment on Straight Talk.
Well, our finding so far is that we have some quite strong materials out there. We've got sandstone, siltstones, and conglomerates, which is an interbedded sequence that we would expect to find. And so it looks like the feasibility at this point is there, that there is a feasible option.
I feel I must emphasize each time we do this story that those protesters on the mountain, some of them being more responsible and grown up and some of them acting like spoiled children, as you just saw moments ago, are trying to have you believe that Kinder Morgan is pushing a pipeline through that mountain while they kill small animals and babies. In fact, all Kinder Morgan is doing, and all they are allowed to do, is do some testing to check the feasibility of a pipeline and to get ready to apply to do so should they decide that's their next step. They had a December 1st deadline in order to get their testing done. Paige McPherson is in BC, and Paige, a lot of people, including me, would say quite reasonably, because of all of the delays caused by the protesters, they're asking for somewhat of an extension.
That's right, but that doesn't mean it won't be controversial. Of course, Jerry, what you saw in that footage with Ada there, wow, just mind-blowing. That same woman actually came up to me and tried to interject in one of my reports that I was doing up there on Sunday. So she seems to have a bit of a fixation with us. But nevertheless, the work that Kinder Morgan is doing is actually continuing on Burnaby Mountain. And you're quite right to say they're not laying pipe. They're not using the drill that they have to extract oil and gas or anything like that, there have been misconceptions about. They're basically doing a feasibility study. So as you heard there, that was from a geotechnical engineer, and it was a little bit of technical local speak, but he's the project director on the ground at this Burnaby Mountain site, and I spoke with him yesterday. He told me that it's looking feasible, that the site on on Burnaby Mountain for this pipeline, it's looking like a feasible option for the pipeline. So that is good news for Kinder Morgan, as they're only 2/3 finished their work. They're not. This isn't a final answer, but definitely good news for Kinder Morgan. I guess bad news for some of those protesters on the mountain.
Well, the extension that Kinder Morgan is looking for doesn't seem too ridiculous. I mean, the injunction deadline, December 1st, they're now asking for December 12th. It's not that, that's not too much extra time.
That's right. So basically what they're asking for is an extension for the zone that they have, the injunction zone surrounding there. You actually saw Ada go under the police tape there, get into the injunction zone to be safe, because the protesters are not legally allowed to be in that zone. That's to protect the Kinder Morgan workers who are working on this feasibility study. So what they've asked for is that zone basically be continue to be enforced by the RCMP as it is now, as you saw, up until December 12th instead of December 1st. Now, it could be because, of course, the protesters are there. It makes it very difficult, I think, to complete the work. And certainly this engineer that I spoke with said that he's received people screaming his name at him, protesters all throughout the day saying very vulgar things to him and his fellow employees that he didn't wish to repeat to me. So yeah, that could be definitely an obstacle in completing the work. But as well, sometimes these projects just take a little bit longer than anticipated. They want to make sure that, first of all, the environmental side of things is sound. So they want to make sure they're not going to disrupt the environment. They want to make sure that it's not on an earthquake, an area that would be really greatly impacted by earthquakes that would cause a spill. And actually, he told me as well, what they've determined is that the area is seismically stable, which means that an earthquake wouldn't really impact a pipeline. And they want to make sure that they actually can lay pipe there. So they need the extra time, I guess, to do that. And right now it's looking good, but they're going to be asking for this extension. So that's in court tomorrow morning, Jerry, and I will be there tomorrow morning in court. And of course, as I'm sure you would expect, there's a protest plan for outside of the courtroom. That's at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time tomorrow morning. So I'll be there, and of course we'll bring you guys there in Toronto all of the updates of what happens at that protest, and then to see if Kinder Morgan gets their injunction extension.
Well, you'll bring it to us all across the country, not just here in Toronto,
exactly.
Which we appreciate. Now, you got some science from the Kinder Morgan side, so I'm assuming then when they're not holding signs up in front of our cameras, the protesters have some science to give you. Would that be correct or incorrect?
Some science. No, I mean what I've gotten really from the Kinder Morgan people is more so a technical briefing.
No, I'm asking you if the protesters have ever come with any science as to why they're for their side of the argument.
Gotcha. No, it's hard to get the protesters to talk to us, first of all, which, as I'm sure you can see from talking to Ada, there are some concerns that protesters have that are legitimate, such as that earthquake concern. I think that's been one of the really big ones. And so it looks like the work that Kinder Morgan is doing on the ground in conjunction with Simon Fraser University to determine whether or not the earthquake zone is going to be impactful or whether or not it's stable. It's looking like it's stable based on the Kinder Morgan work done there and also the research that Simon Fraser University has done, but somehow I think that isn't really going to quiet down the protesters, because I don't think this is specifically about Burnaby Mountain. I don't think it's specifically about the earthquakes possibility. I think it's about fossil fuels.
Paige, look forward to your story tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you.